Hi there, this is Mystical Mimi, Hoodoo Conjure Queen, coming back with another exciting spell. Stay tuned.
Hey guys, this is Mystical Mimi coming back at you with another video. This time, a little different format. I basically wanted to come to you and talk with you about a little bit about who I am and how I got into this practice and what do I do in my everyday life. I'm a hoodoo all times. It's who I am. It runs through my blood. But also, what I do, I'm also a registered nurse. So I'm a 60s baby, a flower child. Again, I'm also a registered nurse, all right? But I've been around hoodoo slash root work all of my life. My grandmother, she was 50% Iroquois Indian. Her tribe is the Tuscarora tribe that is primarily indigenous to the Carolinas, Pennsylvania, upstate New York, and Canada, I believe. So my grandma, she actually lived to be 100 years old. And not only was she the town's healer slash root worker, she was also the mother of our church. Our family, we have a church, a Pentecostal church, believe it or not. I'm of, we're all of Christian faith, myself included. Actually, this was at one point in my life, this was a sort of a point of conflict for me in terms of my practice. But as I've moved through my life and learned and researched and talked about it with my elders that are around me, I came to know that there's no real conflict. What I'm doing is actually synonymous with my spiritual life and my spiritual practices and my faith. So also, I began to practice on my own probably in my 20s, but I'll get to that in a second. But from about ages 4 to 7, I lived in North Carolina with my grandmother, and although I didn't understand at that time why I was living apart from my siblings and my mom who were up north, so I didn't understand why, my brothers and my sisters lived in one place and I lived in the other place. But now I know it was primarily so that my grandma could teach me her ways, the art, and she could also hone my skills. She recognized that for myself very, very early on in life that my third eye had been awakened. So she chose me to come and live with her, and she taught me a lot of information. So during the ages between 4 and 5, I was actually home with her. And so during the day, she would take me to go on walks in the woods, the fields that surrounded her house. She would take me out to go and pick roots, go pick herbs and plants that she used to make like tinctures and soaps, and medicines for, treatments for. And people from all races, all backgrounds would just come and visit her. All right. The front room of her home always had visitors, people waiting to see her. I mean, women whose husbands who had strayed or were abusive to them, women who were barren. She opened their wombs so that they can have children. Gamblers often visited her for lucky hands, for her to make lucky hands and lucky roots for them. Even our pastor's wife, um, she would travel up to Atlantic City, New Jersey a couple of times during the year. And so she would even come to visit my grandmother to ask her to make a nice mojo for her to increase her chances for winning. So I sat back, I watched her, I helped her put together things like nation sacks, different types of like I said, root work, boil the herbs, made the teas, stir the oils with the salves. I was so involved with this, and my little old self was just soaking up everything. So I literally, just like grandma did, I could literally look at a herb or take a walk in the woods and point out something to you and let you know what that herb is good for. So also about that time, my grandmother was teaching me how to look in the Bible and to pick out verses to give to people to use along with the treatments. And yes, the entire Bible, you guys, is filled with mysticism. Okay, not just the Psalms. The entire Bible is really a book of mysticism. And listen, I no longer feel conflicted because of my faith. I know, in accordance to John 14:12, Christ himself said that we would go on to do greater works than these. And we know that Christ would cast out demons, he cured illnesses, he raised the dead, etc. So I'm no longer conflicted. I know that this is a part of my life work. This is a part of my journey. And I am now 100% open to it. I'm no longer running from it anymore. I have ran from it periodically over years, but a lot of that was because I got into the dark side of it. And it doesn't matter what religion or, what faith, what deity you subscribe to. There's a light and there's a dark side to it all. It's just the intentions. I mean, to be very frank and honest, so many people have died in the name of God. All right. So it's not some dark sorcery or witchcraft. It's only the myths that's been built around these practices, voodoo and all of that. It's actually a practice, is very spiritually based. It makes you in tune with not only your inner spiritual person, but also in tune with your spiritual guides, your ancestors, and it empowers you to improve your life. You guys, we don't have to be victims, all right? We really don't. Aside from the day that you were born and the day that you will leave this earth, this plane, everything else can be altered. So I tell people, use this work to make your life better, all right? And don't feel conflicted about it, because you're well within your birthrights to do what you need to do to improve your work, to improve your life. And hoodoo, root work, voodoo, candomblé, whatever your religion takes you to, whatever is born out of that, that is certainly a tool that you can use to improve your life. Okay? And my ears actually started to ring. And I noticed shortly after my ears were ringing, I would hear someone around me dying. So I started to share this with my grandmother, who told me spirit is now wanting to work with me, that my spirit guides are now here and they're working with me. And so initially, when she told me that, I was terrified and I hated it when my ears would ring, especially when my spirit would point out who the person was that was getting ready to die. I was just so internally messed up as a child, because to talk with someone and to know that this person is going to die, in my opinion, spirit, I know you're listening. In my opinion, that was a lot for a little child to actually bear, but bared it, I did. So fast forward to my late 20s, and once again, my spirit guide started urging me to kind of move forward. So I started to study a lot of Eastern religions this time. I started to study a lot of Eastern religions, Eastern practices, like Buddhism, Sufism. Started studying Reiki, you name it. I was just like thirsty and hungry for all that knowledge. So what I did was I studied it. I found practitioners in those areas, gurus in those areas, and I sat up under them and I studied. I then met a woman at work who was Haitian, and her family, they were practitioners of voodoo. That led me to learning more about the African Loas, and visiting like voodoo temples and services. You guys, I saw some stuff in these temples. I've talked to voodoo Loas. I remember one time during one of my spiritual cleansings, the Loa Dani, Dani, stopped by. Also, I found a big affinity, still have it, with Umoja and Oshun. I'm a Libra, so I mean, it's just natural that I will love these and have an affinity towards these Loas. I love all things beautiful and glamorous. That's just who I am. And so even still, through all of that, traditionally I was working in the banking industry for a little over 20, probably about 22 years. And then suddenly I was hit with the urge to change my careers and to become a registered nurse. So that's what I did. I went back to school and I went on to become a registered nurse, and that's what I've been doing up until now, actually. And it's just me, it's who I am. I'm a healer by nature. That's every cell, every fiber in my body is now at peace because I'm finally doing the things that I was called to do in this lifetime. Okay? So also during that time, I actually started doing readings and doing root work for people. So from about my mid to late 20s till about my mid 30s, I was doing root work and I was doing hoodoo work and doing cleansings and baths and candle magic and rituals for people. I met people from all over during this time. I mean, people would come from the islands. Met a group of people from Bermuda. They would come over to have me read them and do work for them. I loved and I hated this work. All right. I loved it because I love working with my spirits. I love their energy. You just feel so powerful when you're working with your spirits. And it's just, especially, it's just who you are. It's energized to know that you can change a situation, that you don't have to be, like I said, you don't have to be a victim. All right. So I was trying to get my candle back in the shot. I like the way it was looking. So I worked with people for many, many, many years. But I would tell you that also during this time, I was very miserable. So the reason that I hated it is because you guys, people do not want to own their stuff. All right. You have to be careful and you have to protect yourself energetically, spiritually, also in the physical realm, because people will use your power. People can, there is true about psychic vampires. People can and will steal your power, or they will try to work with your spirits, steal your spirits. There's so much. Now, that's the dark piece of it. That's what I will say. That is the dark piece of it. The other piece of it is just people in general not wanting to own their stuff. It's like, Ilana, fix my life. They want you to completely fix everything that's going on with them, and they don't want to participate in it. All right. And they want you to do it all in one session. So it's like, in my mind, I'm like, it took you a lifetime to get where you are. But you want me in one session to completely just fix your life. And I'm here to tell you, no one can completely fix your life. You have to do your own self work. Okay. And a lot of people are not willing to do the self work. There have been so many times that I was working with folks to try to improve an area in their life, and all the while they were messing it up on behind the scenes. And they were coming to me, oh, this now happened, and I'm like, well, how did that happen? I was getting impatient, and so I just went ahead and I did this, that, and the third. And I'm like, I didn't instruct you to do that. So now they want you to fix yet a greater mess that they've created. And it just became so much. It drained me on every level possible, mind, body, and spirit. I was up all night doing work, People calling me, my phone never stopped ringing. People calling me all the time, crying and, just wanting me to just do things. And oh, it was just crazy. So eventually, my own health started failing. So I just decided, I was going to step away from it. And then the final nail in the coffin for me was, other workers, they became root workers, they became jealous and they started to throw things my way, like trying to hex me, send me bad energies. And my life started, to derail. And what I had to do is I had to get my godmothers. My spiritual godmother is Brazilian and she practices candomblé. And then my godmother, my she practices. I mean, everybody around me practices so much. So they had to come and basically rescue me from dark magic. And they taught me how to defend myself. You know what I mean? Because up until that point, I didn't know how to defend myself. So they taught me how to defend myself against dark magic. And it was crazy. It's people that you look at every day you would not even suspect. People that you look at and you hang out with every day, a lot of people practice this work. A lot of people are on the dark, they use it on the dark side though. Okay, so if they're jealous of you, they'll try to do things to mess your life up, mess your business, your money up, break your relationships up. So you just have to be very careful about that. But, so after they got me back together, I actually elevated yet again spiritually. But after that, I just decided to stay away from the hoodoo root work altogether. I didn't really do anything hands on, but I still kind of skirted the parameters. Um, I just continue to study and research the religions for myself. I researched my family history and elevated yet another level. Now I'm strongly tapped into like my energy, my spirit guides. I'm very, I'm very clairaudient. I'm an empath. My third eye is now wide open. So much so that a couple of months after 9/11 happened, I was actually living up north. I saw the second plane hit, and I knew immediately what was going on. My building where I worked in banking at the time sat directly across the river from the World Trade Center, so we pretty much saw everything. But shortly after that, there's a group. I'd met a lady prior, like years prior, and she had become a part of this group that the powers that be, like the leadership in the country, they have some stuff going on too, you guys. Do not think that people are in places and positions of their own volition. A lot of these people are into to root hoodoo, witchcraft, study Freemasonry. Study Freemasonry and all of that. And you'll see what I'm talking about. But anyway, this woman, she asked me if I wanted to join a group, and basically what they were doing, they would go to the site of the crash site at the World Trade Center, and they would basically use their energy to see if anyone was alive underneath all the rubble. So what they wanted me to do is to use my spiritual eye and my spiritual awareness to see if anyone was alive under the rubble. I went one day and I just went on my own. I didn't go with the group, and I felt like such a profound sense of sadness. I had my daughter with me, and I'll tell you about my children in a second because they're also involved in this work now. I got them involved at a very, very early age, and now we're getting my grandchildren involved as well. But I felt just really sad, really, really sad. But then all of a sudden, right out of the sadness, there I just felt immediately calm. And so I sat there at the crash site. They had benches that you can sit on, and I sat there And I realized that everyone who died that day, that they were now at peace and they had crossed over and moved on. And when I tell you the type of peace and the type of calmness that I felt, I don't know. It's not, I've felt it before, but, and it hasn't been that many times that I felt it, but that day I totally did. So another experience I had, about a 7 or 8 months prior to Dylan Ruth shooting and killing 8 people in that church in South Carolina, I actually was in Charleston, and I was walking past the church. We walked past the church. There's a restaurant that's very popular down the street from that church, a couple of blocks down, Justine's. And so we were in Justine's, and the caretaker was sitting on the porch. So he saw me walking to Justine's and then walking away from Justine's, and he called me. He had called me before and to come into the church to do a tour. And I said, well, I'm hungry. I'm going to go eat, but I promise I'll come back. So when I went back, he was there waiting for me, and I just thought that was kind of odd. But you know what? I just said, he was an elderly man, so I said, I'll go. So I went into the church to start the tour, and when he took me down into the sanctuary, all of a sudden, you guys, I just felt like this overwhelming sense of dread, of like gloom and doom. I felt so fearful, even for my own life. So I ended the conversation with him. I left the church, and I just, I was just, oh my God, I was like, something dark happened in that church. You know what I mean? I'm attributing it to like way back when during slavery period, and I'm just thinking that's what went on. And it was so dark. Every time I tried to look to see what happened, I would just block it. I would get to a point and I would just block it. So I knew it had something to do with people dying, but again, I thought it was people were people that died like hundreds of years ago. So actually, I ended up going to the ocean. I went to Sullivan's Island, right there, right outside of Charleston, and I got into the ocean, and I asked Yamoja to cleanse me, in which she did. So I stayed in the water. It actually started raining pretty hard, and I just stayed in the water. And everybody else was getting out of the water, but I just stayed, and I was just like, please just purify me, just cleanse me. And I called upon her, and she did. She really. So Umoja, she cleansed me, and I left her some offerings. And I never knew why I felt that way until about a year later when Dylan Ruth actually murdered those people inside that church. So just wanted to share, that, experience with you all as well. So late, what I've been urging and feeling the urge to come back and like just share my knowledge and to help people, but I know I didn't really want to do any type of hands-on work. So, I thought about it. I talked about it with my elders, talked about it with my children. And then, after much thought and prayers and encouragement from my family and my godmothers, I decided to start this YouTube channel, all right, to kind of share some of the things that I've been taught along the way. Obviously, I'm not going to teach everything, but and then if you're doing these things, I will say it's not a one size fit all. Not everything works for everybody. So if you do some of these things that I have here and you find that it's not working for you, I always advise people to seek out an actual worker to do the work, to have the work done for them, because sometimes we're so engrossed in what's going on with ourselves that in the negative emotions that we have that's going on, we actually block our own work from manifesting. So I always recommend getting with a practitioner that can help you if you find that you can't do it for yourself. I mean, I even reach out to my family and other practitioners that are friends with if there's something I feel like I haven't been able to do for myself. So my son and daughter, they also practice. We've been teaching my granddaughters. Their ages 1 year to 5 years old. So we don't hide anything from them. I believe, you don't just have to let life happen to you. All right. Aside from the day that you were born and the day that you die, everything else can be adjusted. The more you use your skills, the more powerful and stronger they become and you become. Again, hoodoo is only dark if you use it to harm others without cause. And, trust me, if you're doing this type of work to harm somebody that hasn't done anything to you, the universe will right the wrong. Trust me. But if you do have a right to defend yourself, believe me, if someone's raising up against you or threatening you or your family, your livelihood, by all means, you do have a right to defend yourself. Okay, it doesn't conflict with your faith. A lot of people are like, oh, is that witchcraft? No, it's not. It's not. It's all, anything could be dark. If you use it for dark, it's going to be dark. If you use it for good, for light, then it's going to be good. All right, so don't ever think that. A lot of people, they ask, do I work or read for anyone? Right now, I'm not, but I probably will resume readings in the very near future. I will consult with people though. If people reach out to me, I will consult with them and give them a treatment and recommend suppliers where they can get their religious supplies. Also, I will recommend workers that can help them. I don't know if I'll ever actually one-on-one like do work for people, but I don't mind consulting with people and leading them into the right direction with some credible people to help them. Because guys, you know what, saying that, just to let you know also, you have to be careful with how you approach this craft. If you approach someone to help you, if you're not feeling a person's energy, ask your spirit guides to advise you. But I would say just don't work with them. Also, don't get romantically involved with your practitioner. It will send you in a downward spiral. I made that mistake one time, and I tell you, my life was crazy for a minute. Take your spiritual baths and burn your white cleansing candles at least once a month to keep your energy, your aura clean and clear. And don't hesitate to seek help if you need it. Your cleansing bath, you can use a lot of things. You can just pray over or recite mantras over sea salt. You can boil herbs like angelica and basil. Those herbs are very powerful. If you're having problems in your workplace, you can take camphor cubes and like hide them in flowers in your workplace around your work area, and that'll help with any type of workplace issues that you might have. But again, you don't have to be, no one has to be anyone's victims. I highly recommend that you read and do your research and question everything that you read and research. All right. Pray about an elder or a legit root worker. This work does not cost thousands of dollars. If you see someone that's wanting to charge you thousands of dollars to do something, run far, far, far away from them. Someone who's charging hundreds of dollars for readings, run far, 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 far away from them. They're abusing their powers, if they have any powers at all. All right. Thank you guys for listening. I really appreciate it. Please like, share, and subscribe. Leave comments or questions below. I'll try to answer as many as I possibly can. And I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Thank you. Be blessed.
Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Remember to hit the notification bell for new video alerts. Wishing you love, light, and laughter.